My name is Robert Bernard. I'm the Executive Director for Nova Scotia Indigenous Tourism Enterprise Network. It's actually a Mi'kmaq word, Insidan, which means I want you to understand.
So please describe your job as the Executive Director of Insidan.
It's more than a job for me. It's life work. We call it nation work. Nation work means that you do things that will help to change the future for your people, for your children, for generations to come. I collect a paycheck every 2 weeks, but that's just a thing about doing the job. But for me, it's way more than the paycheck at the end of the day. It's about making a difference for my people through the tool of tourism. And with tourism, we have a strong connection with our culture and who we are and our history. So as the executive director, that's the kind of thing I do every day.
Seems like you're passionate about it for sure. Mm-hmm. Please tell us about your objectives. The main objective, I'm sure, is to support the growth of authentic and cultural tourism and business in the community within enterprises in Nova Scotia. What strategies are you using to meet this objective?
I'll go back 2 years ago when we started. This organization really started its roots in 2012. We were working as cultural tourism coordinators in Unama'ki, which we call our home, which in Mi'kmaq is called that because it's the name for Cape Breton Island, which is the land of the fog, Unama'ki. And back then we were really dealing with many people from around the world visiting our communities and wanting to know more about our people. But we really didn't have an organization or a way to do that. And people were starting to ask us, why aren't you guys involved in the tourism industry? We didn't know about the tourism industry and what it was about. So we decided to find out how Indigenous people are involved in tourism around the world. And we learned about this International Indigenous Tourism Conference that was happening in British Columbia. So we decided as a group to travel to British Columbia to take part in this. Initially, it was just one community, my community at the time that I was working with, and it turned into 20 people really quickly, representatives from around the island. So we took a trade mission team, went to the conference. We realized how behind we were in tourism, but also cultural tourism is what we found out that work to involve. And we learned really quickly that when we got back, we had lots of work to do. And on the trip, we learned about this one word called authenticity. And we've been trying to reach that word in terms of delivering on the importance of that word and what that meant to our people and our culture, everything from our language to our dances to our songs to our stories. And 12 years later, we're still doing that work. So it's been a long journey. When we started the organization, we were focusing on business development, like any other tourism organization would do. But we were reminded really quickly by our elders and cultural knowledge keepers and people in our community that our history has to be part of this work that we're doing, showcasing who we truly are to people from around the world that were going to visit our communities and locations, which we found out already. And they said, we have to figure out what are we going to share? What are we going to tell them about who we are and our history? Because a lot of that has been taken away and other people have been telling our story. So there was a lot to think about at the start on our journey to doing this work. Going back to the journey in 2012 to the International Indigenous Tourism Conference, we realized that a national organization was being formed. So after the event, like literally the day after, I was walking down the hallway and I noticed that there was a big meeting going on and a lot of the people that were part of the 2 days before were in that room. So I kind of went in and checked it out and they said, we're forming a national organization. Are you interested in being part of it? I'm like, okay. I'm from Nova Scotia. They needed a Nova Scotia rep. I became a Nova Scotia rep for the national board. So I'm actually one of the founding members of the national organization, which was originally called the Aboriginal Tourism Association of Canada, ATAC. So we started very small. It was a one-man show for, it was a volunteer national board. One-man show as far as staff was concerned for the first, 2-3 years. We only received, I think it was maybe $150,000 to get the national organization going at the time. And then we formalized, I believe it was 2014. And then I was the first national chair that was elected in 2017, I believe. And then we started really mobilizing with partners from a national level. Investments started rolling in the millions. And in 2024, there's probably a staff of, I'd say, 30 people from the national organization now. And, running a budget of probably 25 million. So it's grown, but it's still, I would say, and, there's so much work left to be done at a national level that actually we're actually, I would say the national organization is, if not the leader, definitely the top 3 in the world for leading in Indigenous tourism growth in the world.
Partners that you might be working with to achieve your goals.
Yeah, there's so many partners that are wanting to work with us, and it's all about timing, really, because we can share all kinds of ideas on what we can do. Unfortunately, a lot of those times it costs money to do that, to bring people together, to do training opportunities, to grow business, scale business up. Infrastructure is a huge cost. When you get into community experiences, if you want to create a community, let's say a business enterprise at community level, that could be millions, right? So really it's how our organization is working now with multiple partners, whether it's government, industry partners, to create that change in representation of the Mi'kmaq voice at tables, strategies that include Mi'kmaq culture and values and priorities into those strategies. That's something we're doing right now. And of course, the corporate world, where we can see them partnering with us to invest into long-term strategies for tourism, but cultural tourism, Indigenous tourism, Mi'kmaq tourism. So all of those are different terminologies and they mean different things, right? So for us, Mi'kmaq tourism means that people get to know our people first. You build that relationship first, you build that understanding, then you start understanding why we prioritize things, why we prioritize language, why we prioritize having gatherings and building relationships and trust, because trust has been lost so badly with governments, with industry, with so many other partners. And so to build that back, it's not going to take, a few weeks and you sign a MOU and you're off and doing those things. We want people to understand. This is the basis of our organization. This is why we called it, we want you to understand, right? So it's that transition of stepping outside the box you're used to being in, and then coming into our circle that we talked about, and join us in that circle and be part of our learning our stories and dancing our dances and eating our food and getting to know people, right? We mentioned how important it is to have friends that you can count on. We want allies that we can count on and trust. So we're building that ally network that we used to have many hundreds of years ago, but those relationships broke. And once those relationships broke, things like treaties didn't exist anymore in the eyes of the other people that were supposed to be there to be our allies. So that's when we lost things. And so we're very, very careful about those relationships today. And so when we have the opportunity to partner, we always make sure that we say, it's going to take a little more time than you think to get to the point where we want to get to, or maybe you're used to getting to. So if we can get them to a point of understanding that, then that is a true ally and a true partner in our sense. And they don't come, lining up just like that. But when you have 1 or 2 or 3, which we believe right now we're at that stage where we have educational institutions you know, coming and working with us and really trying to understand us, that's what we're looking for.
Ego igande ha ego guandu dana hey hey